Good day, good night, welcome to Euro Today. I'm Laramee, joined as always by Duane Rollins. And today, three matchup to talk about. Finland, Russia started the morning pretty alright. And then Turkey, Wales finish with, of course, maybe the appetite. No, the main course of the day was Italy, Switzerland. What a performance by Italy, and we'll talk about that later in the show. Let's start by saying hello to Duane. Duane, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Kevin. It's good to talk to you at this evening of day, what are we, day 6? We're like a quarter of the way through this thing already, man.
I think we are. I just know that it's the first day of the match day 2 of 3. We're in the group stage, halfway there, and already a team punching a ticket to the second round. But we'll talk about that later in the show. Finland, Russia was the first game at 9 a.m. And we all thought the Finns did it again. They opened up. Oh, yeah, they did it. Pukki created a whole thing and then... Yep, nope. Yep, exactly. Duane's favorite friend.
Yeah, damn far. Taking my joy away. They did it a couple times today, actually. But
almost every day in this tournament. Now it's 2 straight, but I told you last week, we're going to see VAR a lot. Actually, I'm surprised by the amount of penalties we've seen, which is not a lot. We saw a one for the ages. We'll talk about that later. We haven't seen a whole lot of penalties compared to other tournaments, but you're right. VAR, once again, with a decision.
As I said the other day, and I'm reluctant to say this again because you know what I feel about the technology, they actually are doing it fairly well. It's not that intrusive, which is really all I care about. I'd prefer if they weren't being pedantic about rule interpretation, but as long as they're not being intrusive, they're not interfering in my joy and my flow of watching a game, then I can live with it. So those decisions today were fine in both cases. And I think the reason we're not seeing a lot of penalties is that we're not seeing VAR get involved in like borderline stuff. That
like handballs, like handballs in the box, you mean?
Yeah, that was probably the closest I've seen to what I would call a pedantic call. The goal that was taken away from Italy didn't really matter in the end. But yeah, look, the Finland-Russia game, the Finns were full measure, but you know the Russians were desperate and are probably just a little bit better. You know, we don't want to really overanalyze how the Finns got their win. They got their win. That's all that matters. But we all know that this is among the weakest teams in the tournament. And they didn't really have a lot of penetration today, we'll say. Like, the Russians needed that win. But that said, the Finns were, again, like I said, they're full measure. But that group now is wide open because of that result. And, you know, it wasn't the best game, but it's fine.
Yeah, I've seen a whole lot of worse game, and one of the interesting aspects, like you mentioned, desperation in the soccer pitch. How do you quantify desperation? And there's one way that I like to quantify desperation when I'm looking at a game and analyzing a game, and one statistic that's available to us now for the Euro is the distance covered by the team. And of course, we can break it down by players if you want, but by the team actually would support what you're mentioning, Duane. 109 kilometers covered by Russia versus 111 for 111, of course, by Finland. It might seem trivial, but over these 90 minutes, 8 kilometers were run more by Russia players. And over a full game, that counts as pressing. That counts as getting that jump on that ball. That's a 50-50. Those are the moments where you can get that upper hand, or in this case, maybe a leg ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the Russians needed the win, and they did what they had to do. Like, they did not look good in their first game, and they're playing the weakest side. They know they need to get out and get the result. They get the early goal. They did what they needed to do. Like, you can't criticize them too much for the game, but at the same time, I'm not looking at the overall performance and saying that I think there's something they're going to build on. It's more like they put themselves in a chance to get one of those 16 spots, which, you know, when you think about it, is a lot of teams qualify for this first round. So
exactly, because there's 16 that will be there, and Finland, Russia, and probably we'll talk about who else in this group when tomorrow comes. But that's where in Group B you have probably 3 candidates of going out of that group. Now, just quickly, let's look at other ways to describe this game. Again, Finland did show some attacking prowess, but that's where it's the difference, right? The lack of experience at that high of a level means that maybe you'll be disappointed, and that will stay with you. And as much as VAR influenced the game by turning around that goal, I think it also might have deflated Finland's confidence that was high following the unfortunate Denmark win.
Yeah, perhaps. And look, they know they're not going to score a lot of goals. So when you have one that you think you've scored and that it's taken off the board, it can be deflating, as you say. But look, I think if you're the Finns, I feel for the Finns in a lot of ways. Like, I don't want to. I'm always very careful in how I'm saying this, but the unfortunate circumstances that occurred during their first ever game in a major tournament was something that was unfair to them too. Obviously on a much, 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 I'll say it 16 more times, lower level than what happened. But they did ultimately lose all of the joy and thrill that normally is involved in a game like that. And certainly the result is getting dismissed. So the fact that, and it had to be emotionally trying on them too. So I think all things considered that they did fine today. And the fact that they're going into the third game with still a chance to qualify to the round of 16 is something that they can, hang their hat on and feel good about. That said, I think Russia did demonstrate that they are better than them today, and that I would expect that they should perhaps get a better result in that third round of games. That's how I see this playing out. That said, I don't know what the Danes are going to do. Like, we don't know. We know they're going to kick the ball out in the 10th minute tomorrow.
Yes, that was made public earlier today.
And that's good, which is also them saying they're going to play, which doesn't surprise me, but it was up for debate, which I think it's good that it was up for debate for a little bit, that it wasn't like automatically assumed, because like that's, these people aren't robots. Yeah, look, it's so hard to talk about this group because of that game, Kevin. It just is. I mean, Finland got 3 points out of it, and what's that mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
again, the solace here is we know Christian Eriksen is okay. More pictures, Instagram posts on his own. He wrote him himself and took a selfie. We've seen that picture by now, so there's also that. I think we can remember, though, that Russia bounced back, even though it wasn't easy. They have some injury trouble. Of course, Zalev did play, the one who injured Timothy Kastang in the first match in that collision. But Zurkov is back in Russia. The veteran defender for Russia has an injury, a non-disclosed injury, and he is back to the mother country to get some treatment.
Yeah, and injuries have been a story already. In this
Physical
tournament.
play too. Like, I've never seen so many people being injured, hurt, tackled hard. This has been a reckless Euro.
Yeah, and I think that's tied directly into the grind that these people have been through. I mean, they basically played 1.5 seasons on top of each other, and that's not great. I feel for them. As much as I love watching European soccer, I cannot wait for those people to get a break because they need it. It's not going to be a very long break, but they need it.
It's going to be a little shorter than normal, as things tend to be this time around, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about the other game today, the second one, this one in Group A, Turkey versus Wales. Now, before this game, Turkey, of course, did a couple of changes. Like, you remember the guy who did the own goal in the first one? Yeah, well, he's not playing. The Chanel Gunner's like, nope, I'm deciding to be very strict on the fact that if you F up, I'm going to sub you out and you won't play. And to me, that's a stifling mentality that will make the playoffs second guess going forward. hey, if I'm not going to do anything, or it's just going to create a hesitation in the players. And yes, Turkey did have a couple of chances in this one, but the brunt of the play was all Wales. The chances was Wales. It could have been 4 to maybe 6-0, depending on a couple bounces. Ramsey should have had a hat trick. Gareth Bale could have had a hat trick, but instead he has a brace of assists, being leader of this tournament with a couple other players with 2 assists.
Yeah, all that talk we had last week about a dark horse in Turkey.
Yeah, that's done. It's just like Turkey. It's done.
Yeah, dark meat maybe, but they've been the worst team in the tournament. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, they asked in the broadcast that I was watching today, "Oh, do you think Turkey can get 3 points in the final game?" And the guy was like, "No."
You think they could get a goal in the last game? Maybe.
Look. I mean, that's focused on the positive though. Like, Aaron Ramsey had a hell of a game. I joked to you off air that I was.
Is he still playing?
Still playing, but
well, we learned that he is. He's actually better than before. Also, I think it's important to note, since the last Euro, Wales is the second team in win, like in the European, like in the two last Euros. France has won the most amount of games, and second is Wales. That says a whole lot for the smallest nation to this day to make it to the semifinal of a European Championship, which they only had 1 participation last time. So impressive still by Wales, where we're quick to criticize Gareth Bale. We're probably still going to make fun of him, not only for wearing a man bun like it's 2015, but also for missing a penalty and scoring a nice field goal in the wrong sport.
Yeah, he missed a penalty. Jesus, no, he kicked that ball into orbit. Like, what was that? Anyway, apparently he's only taken 7 penalties or something in the last 8 years, which is
well, we know why. That's why.
Yeah. Anyway, look, I thought Wales was full measure. Obviously, Turkey, on the other hand, was full not measure. How do you say that? They were terrible, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Sunil Gunesh should not be the manager of this team. This ain't 2002, people. And we saw why. Tactically, technically, physically outdone. Outwit, outplay, outcast. This looks like a Survivor, and they just got booted out of the island.
Fair enough. And look, we'll talk about the late game in a minute. And when you look at what they did in that late game, and then you look at the top team in that group, you can kind of get some perspective on maybe where they stand overall. But I would say that they're pretty much through. I mean, it's not 100% guaranteed, but they're pretty much through. It's like 99% likely that they're going to qualify for the round of 16 for a country the size of Wales that had not been to a major tournament in a gazillion years prior to the last Euro. For them to get to 2 consecutive knockout rounds, and we'll see what happens after that, but for them to get to 2 consecutive knockout rounds, that's a major accomplishment. And they were really, really good today. They were entertaining. They were on the front foot. As I said, Aaron Ramsey, like, jokes aside, this is a guy that has barely played for 2 years. He left Juve and has played, I think, 40 some appearances over 2 years. So he's played a little, but not what you'd expect. Right. And for him to stand up and be as active, as involved as he was, I mean, he had a couple howlers in terms of front of goal, but nonetheless, he did get the goal, so we'll give him that.
Exactly, and I think you're right to point out his performance. He was named the star of the match also for this game, but to me, it's his performance and where he was positioned in this one. Taking a more natural position for him, which is on the width, and not giving him the responsibility of playing in the middle. And I think that was a big decision here by Rob Page that actually helped Wales develop this dangerous attack for this one.
Yeah, and you listen to the interviews at the end of the game. Gareth Bale was interviewed, and he missed that penalty, and they asked him about it. And normally when you ask a player that's done something like that, particularly, say what you want about Bale, he's still a global superstar.
He laughed.
Yeah, he was like, oh, well, that wasn't very good. But
like, well, what do you want me to tell you? He's like, yeah, exactly, like you said, right?
Yeah, but we won, which tells me that they're having a good time, which is all you can really expect with Wales. Like, I mean, for them, the idea that they could replicate a semifinal appearance again, I'm sure that they're hoping for that. Of course they are, but realistically, they get to the round of 16, they perform well in that, then everyone's going to say, good for you guys, and we move on. But I was very impressed with them. That's what I'll say. Like, I thought that, regardless of what we think of Turkey, that you combine the draw with Switzerland and you go into this and you look at what they've done, 4 points, practically guarantee them a spot through. It's going to be a tough game to end it. But
well, yeah.
Hey.
Well, speaking of being impressed, let's move on, because I was impressed, Duane. Locatelli, he impressed me a whole lot. Manuel, wow. Young, talented. What a performance by the Azzurri. And like you mentioned, beating Turkey 3-0 was impressive in itself for a team that did have a troublesome last few years. But let's not forget now, it's 29 straight unbeaten games by Italy. They have only allowed 4 goals in qualifying, famously. Not a goal allowed yet in this tournament. And they have scored 6. Immobile has scored 2. Locatelli has scored 2. Italy is the first team qualified for the round of 16. Italy might be the most impressive team so far, but beating Switzerland to me is more impressive. But still, Switzerland, talk about maybe the second disappointment in this tournament.
Yeah, 1 point out of 2 games. We joked a few times going into this that they were always very consistent. That was Switzerland's gig, right? Like, they're, a pretty safe bet to finish second in most groups in major tournaments. But right now they're sort of in danger of not having. Well, I mean, they probably won't, right? They need a result in that final game, and I would favor them in it. But they need that result and hope that they get things to go their way to finish second. And I don't think it's going to happen. But
I could see Turkey surprising everyone and beating Switzerland, and then Switzerland is gone. Bye.
Yeah, this is what I'll say. My instinct right now is to pump the brakes a little on Italy because of the fact that this is a relatively new generation. Well, by relatively, I mean it is a new generation, right? Like, they missed the last World Cup and they're back now. So, but it's hard to argue against. If someone were to tell me that they're the most impressive team in the tournament right now, it would be very difficult for me to counter that.
What we talked about the last few shows? It's not about who you thought was good or who we thought was good as a player, or the thing is, you don't argue with the past. And in a tournament like this, waiting is an error already, right? You can't wait for the right time. It's already too late. Locatelli, what he's doing, it's what you need at this point. The best player is not the one you always anticipate. It's just the one that shows up when the first whistle starts. And you have to give that opportunity. How can you take Locatelli out of the lineup? It would be crazy to do so. He's so young. He was basically not even a sure pick for this team, and he played himself into this team because of his play with Inter Milan and the influence of Inter Milan in this team. Also very, very indicative of the potential of this team.
No, there's no weaknesses on this team. And that performance today was as complete as I've seen in this tournament. Like, the Swiss, they were the Washington Generals. Like, they were just there taking up space, right? This was all Italy. Like, they had the goal taken away early. And with other teams, we mentioned it earlier, that might hurt them. But what was it, 10 minutes later, not even 7 minutes later, they had the goal again. And it was just such a dominant performance against what is a good team. So, yeah, Italy's been very, very, very impressive. I'm curious to see what Belgium does in the second game. I mean, that was a great first performance, so we just see them back that up. Obviously curious to see what France does, but, yeah, this is one of the favorites. There's just no other way to put it. Like, forget where they were 3 years ago. They're here now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Belgium in just a second when we look at tomorrow's menu, because tomorrow is another day, and we have more games to break down when we come back tomorrow for another edition. But here, let's look at Group A before we look at tomorrow's menu. After 2 games played in Group A, Italy is qualified for the round of 16 2 games played, 2 wins, 0 draw, 0 losses, 6 goals for, 0 goals against. A perfect record so far for Italy. Wales second also, with a win and a draw, 4 points. Switzerland, a point. And Turkey, 0. Last of this group so far. Turkey can beat Switzerland in the next game and maybe get 3 points. Switzerland, if they get 4 points, they can even get lucky. Who knows what happens in the other result? They could even finish second. What we know is to finish first, it would take a win of Wales over Italy, but there's a very, 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 very high chance that Italy and Wales are both through, which we all know what that means. A draw in the third game.
But possibly, yeah. No, Italy has their goal diff. That's like Canada levels in World Cup qualifying. Congratulations to Canada. They're going through to the final round for the first time in 24 years. Anyway, had to get that in.
The Ocho is going to be interesting. It all starts in just a few months.
Yeah, we'll have a show on that soon enough. But I know some of our loyal listeners would have wanted me to get that in there. So it was nice to see. And, was that the worst own goal you've ever seen?
I feel bad because it's a guy from Laval, never mind Haiti. Like, he is from Haiti, but he's a young guy from the city of Laval, which is a city next to where I live right now, and a city where I lived a whole lot in my life also. So I feel bad for Mr. Duverger.
Yeah. There are people out there, last thought on this real quick, there are people out there that are trying to claim that he was on the take.
Oh, which, my Lord. Just exhaust. So stupid.
Yeah, that's not that's not being naive. That there are people on takes in World Cup qualifying games, but no, that was just a horrible mistake. Like, you if you're on the take, you don't create a video that goes viral.
Exactly. Right? If you're on the take, you'll never know, because usually it's just because you did a corner or something in the corner or something that no one will notice.
Yeah. Like I looked at that video at midnight last night, and it already had been viewed over 1 million times. So. Oh
yeah. Like he it's that's why I feel bad for him, because that's
all anyone's going to ever remember. It's also all anyone's going to remember Canada for. But anyway, we'll talk about that.
or 80 for that matter. All right, but tomorrow's schedule, Duane, sees a couple of interesting matchup for us to watch. It all starts at 9 a.m. First game in Group C, Ukraine, North Macedonia. Then we have Parken Stadium in Copenhagen, Denmark and Belgium. And then we have the Johan Cruyff Arena, Amsterdam, the Netherlands against Austria. 3 gate games. Which one is a for sure non-miss for you?
I'm going to say the Denmark game for human reasons. I want to see how they react. I would love for them to step up and do something inspiring on the performance side of things to honor Christian Eriksen, but I will not judge them if that doesn't happen. So I will be certainly watching that. The Dutch is also obviously always worth watching, and we're not too sure what anything is. All of these games tomorrow are interesting. I mean, the Ukraine North Macedonia game, North Macedonia was fine in their first match, but they are generally thought of as the weakest team in the tournament.
By the way, speaking of that game, Austria, who's playing tomorrow, they played North Macedonia in the first game, and Marko Arnautovic, who scored the last goal, he's suspended for tomorrow's game because he insulted a player. Yeah, he insulted a player after he scored. And he's being suspended for the game. By the way, North Macedonia against Ukraine, that's a fascinating one. And the score on the other one was Netherlands 3, Ukraine 2 in a very entertaining game. One thing about Frank de Boer's team is you never know when they're going to concede a goal. But Memphis Depay and company and more can score also. And no, I'm not talking about Victor Company. We're not talking about throwback Belgium teams. I'm talking about the rest of that Netherlands team. But yes, Denmark-Belgium will be a non-miss for sure. To me, Lukaku has been my player of the tournament, and I think he's the type of player, because physical attributes, his body shape tends more for endurance long time and enduring the strain of the calendar of the soccer world over the last 18 months. I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the contributing factor of his success, not only internationally, but with Inter Milan, one of the best strikers on the planet this year, Romelu Lukaku. And I think he's going to score again tomorrow. And I think he's a candidate for the Golden Boot. That was not my thought process a week ago.
Coming around to Belgium, Kevin?
Not necessarily, because, well, they have still a clean sheet, but to me that's maybe unproven at that point. Well, we'll see. I think that Lukaku could be a great striker. But I think this Euro is going to be tough to win, because when you think about it, there's 3 to 4 teams that are stacked. If we thought there was no weakness with Italy, what I'm going to say when France actually gets rolling and Mbappe finishes the chances that he gets, that's another question. But Austria will be missing Arnautovic, and I'm excited to see the Netherlands, because it's not about the 3 goals they scored. To me, it's about the 2 that they conceded. Can they keep that clean sheet this time around? The Swedes almost surprised them. The Swedes, what am I talking about? Ukraine almost surprised them. It's just the colors. I just get so.
Yeah. There's a lot of yellow teams in this tournament.
Right? I was like, when I saw this morning Wales, I was like, why? Your white one was way better.
It was funny. I tweeted this out. I was watching the Sweden game earlier, and at the same time the Canadian women were playing. And as anyone who follows me knows, I follow the Canadian women very closely. So yes, I was one of the 12 people watching that game, and they were playing Brazil, which was also in yellow. So it was very confusing for me to look left and right, and everyone was in yellow. But anyway, I'm interested to watch Ukraine in that morning game, because, as I said, North Macedonia was decent in their first match, but I do think that they are the weakest team there. And I think Ukraine showed in their game against the Dutch that they're legit, that they could be a really dangerous 2 seed. And I think that's probably their goal. So all of the games tomorrow have their own intrigue. That's the beauty of the game too, of the stages, right? Like this is the best stretch of any summer tournament, is game 2. It really is.
Yep, and tomorrow will be game 2 in Group C, and of course the conclusion of game 2 in Group B. So after tomorrow, only 3 groups left in games number 2. But until then, you can follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute, myself at Kev Laramee, and this show at Soccer Today SPN. And as always, until next time, have a great soccer.